Hello there, you're watching the Press Preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive this evening. It's time to see what's making the headlines with political commentator Adam Boulton and Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire. They'll be with me from now until just before midnight. So let's see what is on some of those front pages. And the High Court order to a company linked to Conservative peer Baroness Moan and her husband to repay millions of pounds for useless surgical gowns it supplied during the pandemic is top story on The Guardian. Cough up, COVID, £122 million. That's the front page of The Sun. The Mail calls Michelle Moan Baroness Bra because of her underwear business and says she's also being told she may have to hand back her peerage. Kevin's paper, The Mirror, states simply, strip her of the title. The Metro has reaction from the couple to the ruling, punctuated with the triple headline, Moan, Moan, Moan. The jailing of 7 members of a grooming gang from Rochdale for the sustained abuse of 2 young women leads the Express, which highlights the judge's criticism of the police for the way they handled the case when the women first complained. The Eye reports that refugees are to be stripped of the automatic right to have their families join them in the UK. And that story is also the lead story in tomorrow's Times as well. The Telegraph leads with a pledge by Tory leader Kemi Bade not to ditch targets on net zero, including electric cars and the scrapping of gas boilers. The Financial Times reports that the UK government has again ordered Apple to provide backdoor access to users' encrypted data, despite furious opposition from the US. And finally, after the Star compared former Prime Minister Liz Truss to a lettuce, Health Secretary Wes Streeting speaks to the Star about his own comparison to an onion. Well, let's peel off the layers this evening, joined by Adam Boulton and Kevin Maguire. And let's get down to the serious business, gentlemen, of the story that really is dominating most of tomorrow's front pages. It is about Baroness Michelle Moan. And on The Guardian, their headline, PPE firm with link to Moan ordered to repay £122 million. Adam, the pandemic feels quite a long time ago now, even though there's more COVID strains spreading right at the moment. And it's taken an awful long time for this judgment to come about. That's
right. I mean, they proceeded very carefully. This is a lady judge, Mrs. Justice Cockrell. She's come up with an 87-page report. But the verdict is that this company, basically owned by Michelle Moan's husband, Doug Burman, needs to repay £122 million because it supplied substandard non-sterile PPE, protective clothing, during the pandemic. Now, the point about this is that Lady Moan who was a Conservative peer, used the VIP lane set up by the Conservative government to promote this business, something that was initially denied, but it turned out to be true. And now she is saying that she is being scapegoated because of the government, the Conservative government, of which she was a supporter as a Conservative peer, overpaid, and it's basically all an establishment stitch-up. Well, if you look at the front pages of the paper, there's not all the papers, there's not much sympathy for that. And indeed, the Metro has gone for the headline, Moan, 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 spelt the same way she spells her name.
Yeah. Or could be pronounced money, money,
money. Can we hear a big shout-out for David Conn on The Guardian? Because he broke the original story.
Yeah.
Others followed and contributed going on, including the Daily Mirror investigations editor, Nick Somervad. But it was David Conn who broke it. I remember his first Moan story was in 2021. And it was about she'd sent allegedly a racist message to a British Indian over a fatal yacht crash a few years earlier. And it just all of a sudden thought, wow, where did you get that information? Now, he clearly has been digging, he's had great contacts, and the legal battles that The Guardian would have had to try and make this story safe when they were getting denials, lies, from Moan about involvement with PP. I mean, The Guardian took a risk, Con will have taken a risk, but it was fantastic journalism in the public interest.
Yeah. She was, very much seen as...
She did settle that, by the way.
Yeah. She did, yes.
Fault and damages, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
She was very much seen as a sort of heroine, a working-class woman from Scotland who set up her own business. David Cameron put her into the House of Lords. But Doug Burman is her second husband. She divorced from the man with whom she founded the underwear business. And she lost a lot of public sympathy for a post she did on social media of her by a yacht, seemingly kind of gloating in her richness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there was a revulsion. And this idea, though, that somebody who was made a Conservative peer by David Cameron wanted to give his government a little bit of glamour, and she's using a VIP lane and contacts with ministers and former ministers, then claiming she's being fitted up by the establishment. She was part of the political establishment at the time.
Yes, and I think it was when the Conservatives stood in government, they tried to get their money back for this stuff, didn't they?
They did initially start it after the story was broken publicly, and pressure began to build in the media and also in Parliament.
I mean, this is a company set up by her husband, PP MedPro, and he's considerably wealthier than her in the sense of as a businessman. He's a bigger player. Now they are trying to get this 122 million pounds
That's the big question,
back,
Adam.
But the company has gone into receivership this week, which is going to probably make it quite difficult.
Yeah, they're meant to pay it. Well, in 2 weeks they've got to pay it. Baroness Moan and Doug Barrowman denied wrongdoing, and neither gave evidence at the trial in June. But it is on the front of tomorrow's Daily Mail as well. And their headline is not only about handing back the 122 million quid to the government, which I saw the Chancellor today said is money that should be in schools and hospitals and in our communities, but also the peerage. That's not straightforward, is it?
You need an Act of Parliament to take away a peerage. I think it's a kind of very old anachronistic way to do it if somebody is judged to be unfit to be a member of the House of Lords. Like we've had cases of...
well, Lord Archer would be one.
Lord Archer, there was a Labour peer, Michael Watson, who was jailed for arson, who was filmed setting the curtains alight in a hotel. He was released from prison, left the prison gates and walked through Parliament's gates. There were expenses cheats in the House of Lords who did exactly the same. It's I'm opposed to the House of Lords in principle. I believe our lawmakers should be elected, not appointed, or the blue bloods just because of who their father was or whether they're about to go. And it will raise the question, a wider question, about why can she remain a peer?
It should be said, though, that what you can do, it's not the same as losing your title, but you can take leave of absence.
She has.
Which she has, which means that you don't have voting rights. So in that sense, she since this scandal blew up, she's semi-detached herself.
Still got the title, though. Still got the title.
A bit like Prince Andrew. The Duke of York, in different circumstances. But, the Mail, just on their front page, you can see 25 million supposedly sterile surgical gowns for the NHS.
Yeah.
These gowns were faulty. They would have imperilled the lives.
I think they tested 3/4 of them.
Yeah,
And found
they would. If they had been distributed, they would have imperilled the lives of the people wearing them.
And I think, am I right in saying that the company was actually set up during the pandemic to supply...
It was around the time,
to supply this gowns that were...
What a coincidence.
Timing is everything.
Were sourced in China, I think.
They were sourced in China, yes. Let's move on to the Daily Telegraph. Rather striking image there of the actress Anya Taylor-Joy arriving at the Dior show in Paris, chaps, which I know you pay most attention to, stylish as you are. But we're going to concentrate on the headline, Badenoch, I'll rip up laws on net zero. Interesting, Kevin, on this. People will see that headline and think she's binning everything to do with climate change. You read further down, that's not the case.
No.
She's not denying there's climate change. She's not denying it's a problem. But she's concerned that in tackling it now, we'll be bankrupting ourselves for the future.
Yeah, net zero was adopted by Theresa May.
Yeah.
Which is a Conservative Prime Minister. 2050, the target under Labour was 80%. And I think Kemi Badenoch's going to be furious when she remembers he was business secretary when targets for car sales were coming in and being adopted by the government, when she remembers it was her in power. But of course, she's now trying to get attention. She's waving and shouting very loudly because on the right, she's being totally eclipsed by Nigel Farage and Reform. And it looks like the next target when you get to the conference in Manchester, Adam and I'll both go so other people don't have to. The European Convention on Human Rights. It's kind of, they're chasing where Reform are going.
I mean, this is something that we also saw with Sir Keir Starmer of announcing policies in the run-up to the conference to see how they go and also to attract attention. And, you know, in his case, he talked about ID cards in the run-up and then didn't mention it in his speech. I wonder why. And you do wonder that sometimes these ideas come out and they get a headline
testing the water,
and they're a bit half-baked. Although, it also has to be said that today Ed Miliband gave his speech at the Labour Party conference and he didn't mention a lot of pressing issues on this agenda.
The concern for the environment is quite high. It's up on voters' areas of concern. I think she might be getting it wrong in thinking everyone is opposed to making the environment cleaner.
This on the day when our bills went up by 2%, of course. Thank you both for the time being. We will be discussing this story on the front of the Eye next. Refugees stripped of automatic right to have families join them in the UK. Back soon.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent.
An enormous explosion that's just come down. I think it was a monster's just landed in between us.
Hundreds and hundreds of people hoping to get north, ultimately to get to the United States. It's a border where they're not welcome, yet they keep coming.
We saw snatch squads going in, grabbing people, taking them out and putting them into trucks and taking them away.
They make about 50 kilos of fentanyl a week. It's incredibly dangerous and toxic stuff.
There's been an upsurge in deaths. The fighting between the gangs is getting more and more vicious.
Is this now all your territory?
Yeah.
The battlefield is outside the barricades, which is over there. This is much more like a normal town. It's really sending a clear message that Venezuela is eager for change. We've been crushed. Free from wherever you get your news. We are in the middle of a forest, in a jungle really, and they're attempting to keep these men alive. This is real, hardcore emergency medicine. The information on this could bring down the entire network, not just in Iraq and Syria, but across the world. Sky News, the full story first. Well, hundreds of thousands of people have been using the beast for years to traverse Mexico, but it is really dangerous. Many people have died riding it.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's futures.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
want to start the programme today with a name, a story that I can't get out of my head. The campaign has now started. This is your chance. Tell people. This is the Politics Hub. It's not correct. The tax burden is projected to go up.
No, I am talking about...
No, but I'm not. This is my interview. Look, this is ridiculous. No one does care about us. I'm really interested in that. On the Politics Hub, we like to push the boundaries. He's got the majority. The question is, what is he going to do with it?
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview here on Sky News. With me in the studio, political commentator Adam Boulton and Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire. And, well, let's get back to the papers. We're going to start this bit with the Daily Express. And this grooming gang's story, any of them, frankly, never ceased to be utterly depraved and terrible. Let down by those whose job it was to protect them, is the Express's headline. A picture of the ringmaster in Rochdale of this grooming gang, Mohammed Zahid, who was 65 and got sentenced to 35 years, Adam. But the thing that sticks out again and again is the authorities' failure to protect these girls.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Rochdale case, which perhaps has been more reported than any others, and there have been TV documentaries and TV dramas about it. And what the judge highlights on in this headline is let down by those whose job it was to protect them. She's basically talking about the police.
Yeah.
And this is girls who, when they did come into contact with the police, were treated as prostitutes or young women who had brought it on themselves. And that really, I think, was always what those people who worked in this area complained about, that the girls just weren't taken seriously. And, of course, in some cases, not necessarily in this one, there's suggestion actually of police collusion with the people conducting the abuse.
Yeah, it is the same story, and it's depressingly familiar.
Yeah.
Because it's horrific abuse. And if you go back to Rotherham and you read the Alexis J report into that, you can see it's because the girls, many from troubled families, difficult home backgrounds, so they weren't taken seriously by the police, the local authority, the care system, some of them in care homes. And it's again the case here. And they're going to have a terrible time in prison, these perpetrators, these rapists. But is the system better now? That's what you would want. That's what you would want now. You'd want the police and social services and care homes to take greater care of these young women, because they're incredibly vulnerable and they're exploited, and it could be stopped. But it wasn't then, is it now?
Well, you hear today experts who were the victims saying the needle has moved marginally, a little bit. This on the day when police officers working at Charing Cross station have been accused of misogyny. It's still there in police forces, and this is what it leads to.
And of course, the fact of the matter is these men are Muslims of Pakistani origin, which was one of the reasons why it was felt that police and prosecutors were initially reluctant to get involved in this.
But that's also a reason why this case gets greater prominence than some others. We've seen white gangs, and they don't normally get the same coverage in the newspapers.
Let's move on to the front page of tomorrow's Eye, and they do have Michelle Moan on the top there, but their main headline is refugees stripped of automatic right to have families join them in the UK. Kevin, this is Labour continuing to want to take the game, in particular, to reform.
Yes, that's right. Earlier on spoke at the Telegraph, Badenoch, net zero, chasing where reform are, and this is Keir Starmer doing the same. He denounces that reform's policy of mass deportations as racist, which it is, but then he's pursuing some of the same policies. And on this one is refugees now. If you're granted refugee status, you're being fleeing persecution, oppression. You're allowed to bring your family in. That's no longer going to happen. And he's arguing it's discriminatory. For instance, if you're a British citizen and you want to bring in a spouse from another country, you've got to have a minimum income of $29,000. But I think calling it a golden ticket at the moment now just really...
Feel like that, does it?
It just feels pretty poor to do that, and he's going to inflame and incite people by doing that.
This story has come out of some interviews which the Prime Minister's done at the end of the Labour Party conference.
About a dozen, yeah.
Done about a dozen interviews, and problem is he just tends to, well, as with his using the word racist at the weekend, he tends to get a bit carried away and become a little bit sort of slangy in what he's talking about. And really what he's saying is that the government is going to tighten the rules for refugees and asylum seekers to make it more difficult for them to get asylum, and then, as we already know, to get permanent right to remain and ultimately citizenship. But he wants to put it in these sort of lurid terms of...
Well, I'm going to pick up on lurid terms there just to finish off, because final story we're going to cover for 30 seconds on the Daily Telegraph, which doesn't have Baroness Moan on it at all on their front page as it happens. Not that I can see anyway. Upgrading Trump's flags for brighter shade of MAGA cost £800 ago. It turns out for the Trump visit, Kevin, they got the colour red wrong on the Stars and Stripes.
You're right, they haven't got Moan. I mean, I find that an incredible omission when they've got, what, 2, 4, 6, 8 stories. Anyway, this story is...
You've got 10 seconds now.
£30,000 £800 a flag, because the red wasn't bright enough in
They
the
like
US
it to be
flag.
more of a cherry red.
Yeah, it's more, the MAGA lot have changed it.
We will have more on that, no doubt, later on. Coming up next on Sky News, we'll have more as well from that flotilla attack.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. This is Sky News' extended press preview. Our top story tonight, breaking news. The government has announced big changes to migration rules to try to stop the flood of small boats. It says it's ending the so-called golden ticket. A company linked to Tory peer Baroness Moan is ordered to repay more than £120 million to the government for breaching a pandemic contract. 7 members of a Rochdale grooming gang are jailed for using 2 girls as sex slaves.
At the centre of this case are 2 victims who as children were repeatedly abused, passed around and discarded by men who cruelly preyed on their vulnerabilities.
Also, the world-renowned chimpanzee expert Dame Jane Goodall has died at the age of 91. And over the next hour, we'll be discussing today's news with our reviewers Adam Boulton and Kevin Maguire. And later, we'll have a full run-through of tomorrow's front pages as well. Good evening. The government is this evening announcing new measures to try to cut down on small boat crossings while the racism row between Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage continues to build up furiously. The Home Secretary is to introduce changes so that migrants who are granted asylum in the UK will no longer be automatically given settlement and family reunion rights, ending what it calls the golden ticket. Over the next hour, we'll bring you tonight's headlines, tomorrow's front pages, and the views of our paper reviewers, political commentator Adam Boulton and Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire. But first, let's go live to Westminster. Our chief political correspondent, John Craig, is there. And, John, this is being trailed as a big change this evening on the rights of people coming to the UK.
It comes as the Prime Minister attends a big European summit in Copenhagen. It's the European Political Community Summit. Some 40 or so countries make that up. It builds on announcements by the Home Secretary in her speech at the Labour Party conference on Monday. And the big news really is that the government's going to make it the whole process of settling in the UK take much longer. The big change is going to be that asylum seekers, people who the leave granted to asylum seekers will mean they're no longer automatically given settlement and family reunion rights. Now, the government's talking about balancing protection against persecution, controlling borders, making the system fairer, in line with our European allies. Some countries already have a similar system. Now, the government has talked for a while, as it's grappled with the small boats crisis, about pull factors, as it calls them. And now they're saying that settlement should take longer and be earned via contribution to the country. And to tackle these pull factors, there's going to be various conditions. Being in work, making a certain level of national insurance contributions, not taking any benefit payments, learning English, having a spotless criminal record, giving back, for example, by working in the local community. And the Prime Minister has said this: settlement must be earned by contributing to our country, not by paying a people smuggler across the channel in a boat. And he adds, there will be no golden ticket to settling in the UK. People will have to earn it. It's been dismissed as a gimmick by the Conservatives, who say it won't work, but that's a typical response to the Tories. A lot of the measures are brought in by the government. So it is further moves on top of those already announced by Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary. Basically, it's all about reducing the pull factor for small boat crossings, as the government calls it, and basically making it tougher, really, more conditions. Critics will say it is pandering to those voters who may be inclined to vote for reform, but the government is saying it's serious about tackling the problem, and indeed tackling some of the reasons why so many people are tempted to come across the channel, those so-called pull factors. And the government is using this phrase, the Prime Minister is using this phrase, a golden ticket. No golden ticket to settling in the UK. People will have to earn it. So it's quite a big change in policy, this, criticised already by the Tories, but the government will be hoping that on top of other measures such as the one in, one out, for example, that deal with France, it will go a little bit towards tackling the problem. But as ministers have conceded, it's going to take time.
John, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's take a look at some of the papers concerning this story. And the Eye leads with refugees being stripped of settlement and family reunion rights under new plans by the government to reduce pull factors for small boat crossings. The Times is saying Sir Keir Starmer pledges to end that golden ticket for asylum seekers. The Telegraph says the government will require them to earn the right to be reunited with their family. And the front page of The Guardian also features the Prime Minister's plan to bring an end to asylum seekers' golden ticket, as they call it, too. Back to Adam Boulton and Kevin Maguire. And I know you were both wincing a bit at the phrase golden ticket.
Who does he think he is? Willy Wonka now?
Well, it does make you wonder.
Well, I better emphasise Wonka. People might be thinking something else.
It's also basically saying that the system we have now is a soft touch and that people are getting in and getting these rights who shouldn't have them.
Yeah.
Clearly, the purpose being, as John was saying, to reduce the pull factor, to make it less attractive to risk coming to this country to try and apply for asylum.
Well, the reason refugees were treated differently with their family members, because if you're a refugee and you fled persecution, you can't just go back to your country. Well, if you're an economic migrant, you can decide I'll come to Britain or I'll return elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see some figures on this. How many people it would affect? How many people who are accepted as refugees bring in their families? What are those numbers? How many after 5 years have shown themselves to be good citizens under these rules? The Home Office, I hope, has done all these calculations, and you can't claim any benefits. So what happens if you've been paying into the system for 3-4 years and you want to claim sick pay because you're ill for a week? Does that disqualify you? What happens if you're a carer and it's a low-paid profession, unfortunately, and you're getting universal credit to top up your earnings? Does that disqualify you? It would seem to be very unfair if it does, if you're working as a carer.
I don't have those figures there, but just looking at the official Home Office figures for how many people crossed the Channel since Saturday alone, almost 2,000 people. So others will say, well, fine with this golden ticket thing, but the deterrent effect is not there. The one in, one out scheme, what's going on with that?
I think the government would say not there as yet, which is why
it has started, hasn't it?
Why they're using this colourful language. I mean, it's noticeable that the Prime Minister, Labour leader, did not use this sort of language in his speech to the conference yesterday.
Yeah.
But now he's come away from the conference, he's putting out a different message.
In truth, he wouldn't have dared use this language. He was before home crowd. It was like Liverpool playing at Anfield when he was in that conference centre. But if he'd used this language, it would have undermined, I believe, some of his attacks on Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
So he didn't do it, and he wouldn't have got applause, or he wouldn't have got uniform applause. He may have even got a few murmurs of disapproval. So he's timed it beyond the conference, which I think shows a weakness in his argument within his party, because people are understandably not all going to say this is a great idea.
No, because you'd imagine all of those people at the Labour conference would say refugees, if they deserve to be here,
that's right.
So do their families.
And those figures of people coming on the boats, so more than half in the past have been found to have legitimate reason to claim asylum.
I mean, it's also a difficult argument to say, I want to support these policies to clamp down on asylum seekers. So do Reform UK, but they are racist and I'm not racist.
Yeah, that's why he's focused on the one specific, the mass deportation policy. He's not saying Reform's a racist party. He's not saying individuals are. are racist, and he certainly doesn't want to say people who are going to vote for reform are racist, because actually it's an anti-migrant party. That's its main pitch.
Yeah.
But people are voting. If you analyse, I hope not hate analyse people who are voting for it. And there's all sorts of people voting for it. Some are attracted to water renationalisation. Some want to back. Well, just I'm sick of all politicians. Let's give this lot a go because they're different.
It features on several of the front pages of the Times and the Daily Telegraph as well. There's that story from them, Adam, and also I think it features on the front page of The Guardian, so quite a few of them are covering this one as well. It is interesting, we were mentioning it before, they all feature the Baroness Michelle Moan story, being ordered to repay £122 million, all but the Telegraph, which doesn't seem to have anything at all on its front page about Michelle Moan. Conspicuous by its absence, that one.
Yeah, I think that's an error, actually. All right, refugees, I could see why they do that. Badenoch, bit of the Daily Tory graph on net zero. Trump's flags, I quite like that story, but then they've got 4 news in briefs down the bottom. They could have used it there, at least one there, or they could have put it up at the
I think the reason they haven't put it on the front page is because they didn't need a picture of Baroness Moan, because they've got this picture of Anna Taylor-Joy. So that satisfies.
Yeah, but the Guardian they've not got a picture. They've put it on the front.
Well, they've got Jane Goodall. Very sad news about her death.
The Guardian does not make a habit of putting attractive women on the front page.
No, it doesn't. We will return to some of those stories in a minute, because the High Court has ruled that a company linked to the Conservative peer Baroness Moan must repay the government almost £122 million, as we're discussing, for breaching its contract to supply millions of surgical gowns during the pandemic. PPE MedPro, led by Baroness Moan's husband, was awarded contracts by the then Conservative administration after she recommended it to ministers. But first, our business correspondent Paul Kelso has this.
It's May 2020. The first wave of COVID-19 has hit and the NHS is scrambling for PPE. In the House of Lords, a Conservative businesswoman, Baroness Michelle Moan, sees an opportunity. Using her political contacts, including former Minister Michael Gove, she recommends a company set up by her husband to a VIP fast lane for PPE procurement. PPE MedPro won more than £200 million worth of contracts, but 25 million sterile gowns were unusable. Almost 5 years on, the High Court has ruled the company was in breach of its contract and must repay £122 million. COVID family campaigners welcomed the ruling.
Really pleased. It really needs to be. It needs to have happened. That PPE and that money spent while we lost our loved ones and we couldn't visit our loved ones because there wasn't PPE to visit them while they were dying, and they've profited from this. They shouldn't have profited. They've taken taxpayers' money, and it needs to all be reclaimed back.
The couple reacted furiously, insisting they are the victims. On social media, Baroness Moan called the ruling an establishment win, and in a statement, her husband, Doug Barrowman, said it was a travesty of justice. But a Labour government that pledged to pursue COVID profiteers was quick to celebrate.
This is an independent decision from the High Court, and I'm pleased with their decision because they should never have got their hands on this money. And during the pandemic, people made huge sacrifices, separated from their families and loved ones, and yet at the same time, people like Michelle Moan and her company, her husband's company, profited on the back of that misery.
For almost 3 years, Baroness Moan and Doug Barrowman denied any connection to PPE MedPro, while she continued to share their luxurious lifestyle online, only admitting their links after they were revealed by journalists.
I regret not saying to the press straight away, yes, I am involved. Yeah. And the government knew I was involved, and the emergency team, cabinet team knew I was involved.
If this ruling is clear, getting the money back may not be. Doug Barrowman and Michelle Moan have admitted making more than £60 million in profits from PPE MedPro's COVID contracts. But a day before this judgment was handed down, the company filed for administration with assets of less than £700,000. The judge has given it just 2 weeks to pay in full, and the Department of Health here has instructed lawyers to try and help it recover every penny. The National Crime Agency is also investigating PPE MedPro's COVID deals, and some of the couple's assets, including bank accounts in the Isle of Man, have been frozen. Michelle Moan, the lingerie entrepreneur who reached the Lords, remains a peer, but still faces a standards investigation. Hers a tale of rags to riches, accumulated at the taxpayer's expense. Paul Kelso, Sky News.
Let's see how tomorrow's papers are reacting to that story. The Guardian has details from court of how the 25 million surgical gowns supplied by the company after it was hired through the so-called VIP lane were, in fact, totally unusable. The Metro has 3 lines of angry reaction from the couple to the ruling, punctuated with the triple headline, moan, moan, moan. But the Financial Times says the government could struggle to recoup the £122 million from the medical group linked to Baroness Moan, as we heard from Paul there. With The Sun telling the Moan-linked PPE firm to cough up the COVID £122 million. The Mirror follows Chancellor Rachel Reeves' calls for the Baroness to be stripped of her title, easier said than done. And The Times warns Baroness Moan the government is looking to see if she can foot the bill. Let's get the thoughts of this from our guests Adam Boulton and Kevin Maguire. Let's return to the Guardian, because I think they splash it the most alongside that picture of Jane Goodall there, who's died today at the age of 91. And Adam, that detail in particular that Paul Kelso mentioned in his report there of the company only having 700 grand left in its accounts means it's going to be hard for them to get that money back.
Yeah, although it has to be said that both the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, and the Chancellor today both vowed that they would get the money back.
Yeah.
But, you know, from a company that's gone into receivership and is going broke, it's going to be difficult. But there are some frozen assets, aren't there, Kevin?
Yeah, the Times has a piece on this, and its report 75 million after the Crown Prosecution Service obtained a court order freezing £75 million because, of course, and there's an ongoing investigation, so I'll kind of just stick to the facts here, that the National Crime Agency searched their home on the Isle of Man and other properties in April 2022, and that investigation is ongoing.
Yeah, both Baroness Moan and Doug Barrowman have denied wrongdoing, and neither gave evidence at the trial in June. But Kevin, let me just come back to that headline. I think it was the Mirror talking about the desire to have her stripped of her baronet. What do you call it? Baronetship? Peerage is the easy word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you very much indeed. Can't be done, though, can it?
Not easily. You require an Act of Parliament, although I suspect, unless there is some appeal and they win down the line and this £122 million finding is overturned, I suspect you could get that Act of Parliament through Parliament in a day. Because the public clamour for her to lose the title.
I don't think it's ever been done as yet.
I think it was done with, after the Second World War, I think there were some Irish peers who were considered to be somewhat treasonous and a bit too friendly towards her Hitler. Yeah. I think they lost their peerages. But ordinary people will just not be able to understand how you could have supplied so many faulty gowns, 25 million, which would have put lives at risk, taken all this money, and yet you can then retain a peerage and a title. She's taken leave of absence. Be fascinating, Adam, if she tried to go back into the House of Lords.
Well, she can't at the moment, and that, I think, would be reviewed. I mean, one of the interesting things about this is that, you know, this really is a story of, you know, someone who was plucked from relative obscurity, ran an underwear business, Ultimo in Scotland, founded it with her first husband.
Yeah, that's proper rags to riches stuff.
David Cameron liked the idea of a young, attractive Tory woman, put her into the House of Lords. She has left her first husband, married Doug Barrowman, who's a much bigger, richer businessman. And she used the VIP channels set up by the government to get business for MEP Pro. And now...
PPE MedPro.
PPE MedPro. And now It's amazing because, you know, she's saying it's an establishment stitch-up. If ever there was anyone who was a member of the modern establishment, it's a Conservative peer using a VIP channel, I would have thought.
I suspect self-awareness isn't her strong suit.
So it's slightly related questions, this, Kevin, because we've long heard Labour wanting to reform the Lords in some way. I mean, could this spur that on?
The legislation is I think it's almost through to remove the remaining hereditary peers. I think there are 92 is there. But the suggestions of going fully elected, which Gordon Brown recommended before the election in a headed a commission, have just been dumped, pushed one side. There are proposals on MPs getting over, is it 80 or 85, 80 or 85 stepping down in the Parliament after that, but all that needs to be sorted. But it's if you're going to make it, well, I'd have it fully elected, but if you're going to make it work, you have to be able to deal quite simply with problems like this.
I mean, Labour is committed in principle to replacing the House of Lords, to abolishing it, but in practice there's a great reluctance to devote a great deal of parliamentary time when there are other priorities. Also, if you did go down Kevin's route, MPs would never vote for that because they would say if Lords had a direct mandate, they would challenge the lower house. And so the likelihood for replacement will be some kind of appointed chamber, probably from a list on the basis of percentages cast at a general election or people elected into local government. And in those circumstances, the irony of it is you probably end up with pretty much the same sort of people as you've got now operating as working peers.
There's some decent people in there. I'm not disputing that at all. But I praise some of them. But it's just the way it's constituted. But you've got to be able to deal with people like Moan.
Let's park the Lords reform there for the time being, because you're watching the press preview here on Sky News. Coming up in a moment, we will have more on the judge's damning view of how the authorities handled the Rochdale grooming gang investigation.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
a secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometres away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
I want to start the programme today with a name, a story that I can't get out of my head. The campaign has now started. This is your chance. Tell people. This is the Politics Hub. It's not correct. The tax burden is projected to go up.
No, I am talking about...
No, but I'm not. This is my interview. Look, this is ridiculous. No one does care about us. I'm really interested in that. On the Politics Hub, we like to push the boundaries. He's got the majority. The question is, what is he going to do with it?
You are watching the press preview here on Sky News. As you can see, I'm joined by political commentator Adam Boulton and Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire. I'll hear more from them in just a moment. But first, 7 members of a grooming gang in Rochdale have been jailed for a combined total of more than 170 years for using 2 teenage girls as sex slaves. The ringleader, 65-year-old Mohammed Zahid, was sentenced to 35 years behind bars. And the judge said that the girls had been humiliated, degraded and then discarded. He also said both girls had been seriously let down by those whose job it was to protect them. Our North of England correspondent Katerina Vitozzi has more.
Do you recognise that female?
No.
The judge called him the grooming gang's boss man, who's never shown any remorse. Today, Mohammed Zahid was jailed for 35 years for grooming 2 teenage girls, raping them and passing them around for sex with others back in the early 2000s. The court here in Manchester heard how Mohammed Zahid had a market stall in Rochdale where he sold underwear. It's where he would meet his victims, giving them free underwear and then things like cigarettes, alcohol and drugs, grooming them and building an expectation from them that they had to have sex, not only with him, but his friends. 6 other members of the gang were sentenced alongside Zahid for multiple counts of rape and assault. None of them have ever admitted what they did. In this police footage, 2 of the men turn against each other, accusing the other of a brutal rape of one of the victims in a car, an assault that was filmed and used to blackmail her. At the time, the 2 victims were just 13, both highly vulnerable, known to social services, in and out of care. The judge said the men exploited that vulnerability and used the girls as sex slaves. Outside court, statements were read out on their behalf.
My childhood was taken away from me by these men. I should have been out with friends, playing in parks and being innocent, hanging around on the streets, enjoying my childhood and creating memories I would be able to cherish and look back at as an adult. However, my life was far from that due to these men. Instead, it was based on being taken to addresses by men, being plied with alcohol and drugs, raped and then being made to feel worthless. I have felt shame and guilt all my life for what these men did. I still suffer with social anxiety. I am unable to trust anyone and I cannot take people at face value. I have no expectations of anyone.
During the trial, social services and the police apologised for past failings, for not acting when the victims told authorities what was happening.
As a country, we still have a long way to go to put victims at the heart of these cases because they always suffer the most. The quicker we can do these things, the more effectively first-time interviews they do, then the easier the toll is on their mental health. Everything that can be done to help them should be done.
In court, the judge addressed Zahid directly. He said at the time the victims were young girls. They would have been terrified at what was happening to them. You, Mohammed Zahid, he said, simply didn't care. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News in Manchester.
Well, here's how that story has been covered in the papers. And the Daily Express leads tomorrow with the words of sentencing judge Jonathan Seeley. He remarked the 2 victims of the Rochdale grooming gangs were let down by the authorities. To Adam and Kevin once again. And Adam, we've heard that before with a lot of these grooming cases. The authorities just didn't, for whatever reason, get a handle on it and save these poor victims.
Yeah, precisely the point that Maggie Oliver, the former police officer was making in that report from Katerina. You know, the fact that it's taken so long, 20 years, to get to this point shows that clearly the matter wasn't a priority or perhaps even taken seriously by the police and prosecuting authorities for a very long time. And that, of course, is exactly what the judge zoned in on in the statement, which the Express has put on the front page there.
Yeah. And Kevin, the timing of this is always interesting because only today you've got the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Mark Rowley, referring to what's been happening at Charing Cross Police Station, accusations of misogyny there amongst officers, amongst other things, in fact, saying the public need to trust them. And these kind of things coming time and time again erodes that trust in the police and stops the good ones being able to do their jobs.
Oh, no, absolutely. It does erode that trust, but hopefully it will finally, eventually get some change so it doesn't happen again, because it is just, it's depressingly familiar, case after case after case. You know, 174 years between the seven is a long time. Some people will argue it should be even longer. They should never walk free again. But of course, you fear, has change gone far enough in social services? I mean, they absolutely stretch social service teams around the country. The police have huge pressure on them, and if they're young girls from troubled backgrounds, do they not have anyone to champion them? Because it's not. You know, if they were the daughters of teachers or High Court judges, doctors, this wouldn't be happening. It would be taken seriously. And too often you see it's because of their backgrounds and who they are. They're just
their
dismissed.
background is also one of the reasons why they become vulnerable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's horrific. But the whole child protection system is supposed to look out for them and protect them, and it's failing them.
And the problem is, you know, we talk about this happening again and again. It has happened again and again. And you're talking about Charing Cross Police Station. I mean, what is amazing about that report is they had an expose of behaviour and dodgy messaging just a year or so ago, and then in the same police station, people have gone on doing it.
Yeah, yeah. The other element of this, of course, is the race of the perpetrators. Yeah. And it was in tackling that head-on or not, as the case may be, that may have prolonged this whole thing. And we know that then feeds into other people's prejudices too. Yeah, and of course, it'll be one of the reasons a case like this will get greater prominence than, say, a case a while back in Scotland. It was only about 6 months ago, where the perpetrators were white British, and so that got less attention. But you can't, whatever the colour of your skin, whatever your background, your heritage, if you're a child sex abuser, a rapist, a paedophile, you deserve.
I think it does have to be said that while, you know, the majority of child sex abusers are not of Asian origin, this pattern is something that has recurred in communities of Pakistani men. I think that's now accepted. Yeah, well, other British Asians will point out, if you find British Indians, say, hang on, there's an over-representation of Pakistani men in these gangs in certain parts of the country. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you both for the time being. You're watching the press preview. Coming up, we'll have a full run-through of tomorrow's front pages and discuss more of the day's news.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
You're watching Sky News. In a moment, all the front pages and the biggest stories inside as well. But first, our top stories this evening. And the government's announced tonight big changes to migration rules to try to stop the flood of small boats. It says it's ending what it calls the golden ticket. A company linked to Baroness Moan has been ordered to repay the government more than £120 million for breaching a pandemic PPE contract. 7 members of a grooming gang in Rochdale have been jailed for a combined total of more than 170 years for using 2 girls as sex slaves. You're watching the press preview with some of the stories making tomorrow's papers. Joining me once again are political commentator Adam Boulton and Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire. So let's see what is on the front pages. And the High Court order to a company linked to Conservative peer Baroness Moan and her husband to repay millions of pounds for useless surgical gowns it supplied during the pandemic is the top story in The Guardian. Cough up COVID, 122 million. That's the front page of The Sun. The Mail calls Michelle Moan Baroness Bra because of her underwear business and says she's also being told she may have to hand back her peerage. Kevin's paper, The Mirror, states simply strip her of the title. The Metro has reaction from the couple to the ruling, punctuated with the triple headline Moan, Moan, Moan. The jailing of 7 members of a grooming gang from Rochdale for the sustained abuse of 2 young women leads The Express, which highlights the judge's criticism of the police for the way they handled the case when the women first complained. The Eye reports that refugees are set to be stripped of the automatic right to have their families join them in the UK, the so-called golden ticket. And that story is also the lead item in The Times. The Telegraph leads with a pledge by Tory leader Kemi Badenoch to ditch targets on net zero, including electric cars and the scrapping of gas boilers. And finally, the FT reports that the UK government has again ordered Apple to provide backdoor access to users' encrypted data, despite furious opposition from the US. Actually, this is our final story. After The Star compared former PM Liz Truss to a lettuce, Health Secretary Wes Streeting speaks to The Star about his own comparison to an onion. He's got layers and depths and something on those lines. That must be what he's aiming for. Does make you cry.
Please, boys, please.
Adam and Kevin, we're going to have fun with that one, aren't we? Adam and Kevin are still with me now. Let's head to the front page of the pink paper, the Financial Times, because as I mentioned there, Adam, the Home Office in fresh push for backdoor into Apple user data. They've tried this before and got knocked back, I think. They're trying again. But what it has meant in the meantime is a lot of Apple users do not have the same protections of their data as everyone does in the rest of the world.
Exactly. I mean, I have to say I'm genuinely surprised that the Home Office is going back on this one. This basically was a demand from the British government that there should be a so-called backdoor so that in cases of criminal activity, they could get into Apple's system and look at people's communications, people's messages. Apple, of course, said absolutely not. And it was felt that, this had been settled before the second state visit by Donald Trump. Tulsi Gabbard, the National Intelligence Secretary in America, said that the thing had been resolved. Now, what this FT story is saying, that the Home Office has gone back and said, well, we're not looking for a backdoor for everybody, but we want a backdoor for British citizens. And already, as you say, British citizens don't have the highest level of security protection that Apple offers because of the dispute over this. So this is the British government saying it wants access or to break the privacy of British citizens who are already denied certain protections. Now, not sure that's a vote winner, really. You know, do we want to be on a different level from everybody else in the world?
No, well, I mean, Apple put a statement out about it last week saying we have never built a backdoor or a master key to any of our products or services, and we never will. Yeah. So maybe they can't do one.
Yeah, I suspect some countries in the world would just beat the coat out of people or hold the phone, you press the finger down or hold it up to the eye. But it's I can't really see them getting very far. I think it will be unpopular because it will raise privacy concerns. I use Apple myself, but other people will think in an extreme case of terrorism or really serious crime, should there be some way of accessing? You know, we just dealt with the grooming gang. If you wanted to get their information, should there be able to you get a court order and then be able to access it? I can see that argument too, but I also see the privacy argument. And it's one of those balances you have to make when you're in power, if you're in the Home Office. But you always fear if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Then again, I think we've seen in recent years the cracking of things like EncroChat. I think that was a popular one with criminal gangs that got cracked by. They're not using the sort of built-in apps on your iPhone. They're using other things anyway.
No, I'm sure they can just come up.
I mean, the real significance of this is we've had repeated statements from the Prime Minister and from the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, that they want the UK to be a tech superpower, working with the Americans, the offshore centre, and I have to say, having a battle over data with Apple is probably not the way to get that either.
Let's head into the eye. World-renowned chimpanzee expert Goodall, Jane Goodall, that is, Dame Jane Goodall, in fact, has died at the age of 91. And I have to say, having met her and seen how people reacted to her, held in the same sort of regard as David Attenborough for a lot of people. I mean, really one of the greats of conservation and looking after chimpanzees.
And really warm praise from Chris Packham, of course, very famous. You're calling her revolutionary, and it is incredible to think that at the age of 26, 1960, she went to Tanzania and was basically just sitting, waiting, trying to win the trust of chimpanzees, who then came around her. And then she discovered, for instance, they use sticks. We always thought it was only humans who used tools. They're far more intelligent. I mean, absolutely groundbreaking. And she didn't have an undergraduate degree, but got into Cambridge as only the 8th person admitted to do a PhD.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
I mean, you met her, I met her as well, and you could make the comparison to David Attenborough. I would say that what came across to me was her absolute dedication, and of course she was a campaigner on the environment as well. She wasn't as cuddly, frankly, as David Attenborough is in her approach, because she regarded this as being so serious.
Not as cuddly as the chimpanzees either, no doubt.
They're very vicious, though.
It could be. But great picture on the front page of the Times as well of her hugging one of those chimps. Listen, I think we're going to whiz on because we've got a lot of papers to get through, but I think we have to discuss the front page of the Star. And this is all about Wes Streeting. There he is, mocked up as an onion. Lettuce, obviously the Liz Truss reference. Onion has a ring to it. What vegetable would you be?
Oh, no. I don't know, a spud. You can be very versatile. You can be very versatile. You can have chips on your shoulders. You can be half-baked. You can be mashed.
Boiling with fury.
This is apparently his choice. That he said he wanted to be an onion because the Star had that great success with Liz Truss as a lettuce. The one that puzzles me is they say Keir Starmer would be rhubarb. Why would he be rhubarb?
That'd be bitter.
I don't know. That's a strange one, isn't it? I don't know.
What would you be then,
It is
Adam?
a vegetable, of course, though.
Well, it's laxative as well. I don't know whether that's the reason.
What would you like to be?
What would you be, Adam?
Carrot, I think.
Why is that?
24.
That tastes good.
24.
Help you see in the dark.
You can't escape.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think he probably chose an onion because they last a long time. And
well, if he's an onion, I'd be a spring onion. So
spring
there you go, like a spring chicken. It's a good one. That I have to say, let's just, because I know you've both been at the Labour conference. Wes Streeting does lean into the fun stuff quite well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's very natural, relaxed in his own skin, very chatty.
In his own onion skin.
Yeah, his own onion skin, absolutely.
There it is. Yeah, he plays along with that stuff. Just time to mention very quickly the front of actually not the Eye. It's in page 5 of the Eye. A 96-year-old has broken the park run record. A woman at Worcester, Pitchcroft Park Run, props to them. Irene Edge, who lives near Halezone, completed the 5-kilometre course a few days back in 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's phenomenal, isn't it? 96, running 5K.
It's probably quicker than we could do it now, actually. You've got to applaud it. The park run is just a brilliant initiative.
It is.
Because it is for all ages, sizes, abilities, all people are volunteers, and there's just huge goodwill, whether you're a super athlete or... Well, you're a super athlete in a different way when you're
Absolutely. But being a spud and a carrot, I wasn't going to put you on the spot asking for your park run times.
Oh, you'd have to be a runner bean.
Yeah, come on. Right. I think we've exhausted the vegetable puns. Thank you both very much indeed. Lots of fun. We'll bring the carrot and the spud back another time very soon, I'm sure. Coming up next in the sport, how Newcastle turned on the style big time to earn their first win in the league phase of the Champions League this evening.